The heartbreak didn't have the final word. The betrayal didn't define you. The loss didn't end you. The addiction didn't own you. That depression, that anxiety, it didn't bury you. You buried it in the power of a greater truth. So they tried, didn't they? The enemy tried. The world tried. Even your own mind tried. But something inside of you refused to give up. That something, that was the Spirit of the living God whispering, "You are mine. You are chosen. You are more than a conqueror." You see, people will try to tear you down, but they can't touch what they didn't build. They didn't write your destiny. They don't hold your purpose. They don't carry your calling. So they cannot cancel it. You've been broken before, but not anymore. Because the breaking was never the end, it was the beginning. The moment you hit rock bottom was the moment you found out who the rock really is. And he is unshakable, unmovable, unbreakable. And when you stand on the rock, no storm, no man, no lie, no failure, no fear can break you anymore. You are not what happened to you. You are not what they said about you. You are what the Word says about you. Blessed, restored, redeemed, victorious. So now, walk like you're free. Speak like you're whole. Live like you've got nothing to prove and everything to testify. Because your life is a walking sermon. Your scars are your sermon notes. And your survival is the altar call for someone else's breakthrough. You found your foundation, not in people, not in possessions, not in titles or temporary highs, but in something eternal. You came to a place where the world stopped making sense. And in that moment of silence, you discovered the truth that never changes. You stopped building your identity on sand that shifts with every opinion, every failure, every season. You dug deeper, you reached lower, and there you found it, the solid ground of purpose, of hope, of unshakable love. You realized that strength isn't about how loud you roar, but how steady you stand when everything around you is falling apart. And now you don't crumble under pressure like you used to, because your roots go deep. When others fold, you endure, not because of who you are, but because of where you're anchored. Your peace isn't fragile anymore. Your joy isn't rented. Your worth isn't up for debate. You stand on something, someone who doesn't move when the wind blows or the lightning crashes. So when life tries to shake you again, it'll find that you don't move like you used to. You've been planted, secured, grounded in a truth that doesn't break. And that's why no one and nothing can shake your soul the way it used to. There was a time when the pain nearly crushed you, when the weight of everything you carried made it hard to breathe, hard to hope, hard to believe that anything good could come from it. You felt broken, like something inside you had shattered beyond repair. But here's the truth that only hindsight reveals. That brokenness didn't destroy you. It rebuilt you. It didn't make you weaker. It made you wiser. See, something shifted in the middle of that pain. The very thing that was meant to break you became the training ground for your strength. You didn't just get through it, you grew through it. The nights that made you cry out in silence gave you a deeper understanding of what it means to endure. The disappointment that tried to silence you gave you a new voice, one that speaks with empathy, with power, with truth. Now you walk differently, you love differently, you lead differently. Because you've seen what pain can do, but more importantly, you've seen what healing can do. You're no longer afraid of the breaking because you know what it produces. Resilience, depth, fire, faith. You didn't choose the breaking, but you chose to rise from it. And that choice has made all the difference. What once wounded you now fuels your purpose. What once felt like the end has become the beginning of a version of you that nothing and no one can tear down again. The enemy can't use what you've already conquered. You are covered in grace and grit. It's not one or the other, it's both. Grace picked you up when you couldn't move forward, and grit kept you walking when everything told you to give up. Grace forgave what others couldn't see past. Grit pushed through what others said you'd never survive. You are where you are today, not because life was easy, but because something inside you refused to quit, and because something greater than you refused to let you go. There were days when you had no strength left, but grace met you there. It whispered, "You don't have to do this alone." And somehow you got up. You kept showing up. You kept fighting, not perfectly, but persistently. That's grit. That's the fire in your soul that says, "I may bend, but I won't break." You've been forgiven, and you've been formed. Forgiven from the things that tried to define you, and formed by the things that tried to defeat you. Grace gave you the second chance. Grit made sure you used it well. Grace erased the guilt. Grit built the character. Grit said, "You're still worthy." Grit said, "Then act like it." Now, when people look at you, they may see strength, but what they don't see is the mercy beneath it. They see the fire in your eyes, but they don't see the tears that forged it. And that's okay, because you know that your story is stitched together by divine love and unrelenting determination. And that's why no matter what comes next, you are unshakable, because you are walking proof of what happens when grace meets grit. You know who you are now, and that changes everything. There was a time when your identity was wrapped up in the opinions of others, when your worth rose and fell with people's approval, with your performance, with your past mistakes, but not anymore. Because now you see yourself through a different lens. You've come to know who you truly are, not what the world says, not what your wounds say, but what truth says. You're no longer chasing validation from broken places. You've stopped shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold your full strength. You're not trying to prove anything to anyone anymore because you finally realized you were never lacking. You were never less than. You were never, I'm a run along. You were chosen, equipped, designed with purpose. And when that truth sank in, not just into your mind, but into your soul, it set you free. Free from pretending, free from comparing, free from apologizing for the power in your voice and the fire in your story. You know now that your value isn't tied to your past or your pain. It's tied to the fact that you were created intentionally, loved unconditionally, and called unquestionably. So when life tries to shake you, when people try to tear you down, you don't fall apart the way you used to, because you know exactly who you are. And once you've tasted that kind of clarity, that kind of peace, no one can take it from you. No label can stick. No insult can wound. No lie can hold. You've been claimed, you've been called, and now you have a voice now. Not just words, not just sound, but a voice that carries truth, carries weight, carries power. There was a time when silence seemed safer, when you held back your thoughts, your pain, your dreams, because somewhere along the way, you were made to believe your voice didn't matter, that speaking up would only bring trouble, that no one would listen, that your story wasn't worth telling. But that time is over, because something in you woke up. Something rose from the ashes of what tried to keep you quiet. And now you speak, not from a place of needing to be heard, but from knowing you have something to say. Your voice isn't timid anymore. It's steady, it's bold. Not because you haven't been shaken, but because you've been through too much to stay silent. The things that once silenced you, fear, shame, rejection, they no longer hold the mic. You do. And when you speak, it's with conviction, with compassion, with clarity that only comes from lived experience. Your words aren't empty, they're earned. You've got something to say because you've lived it. You've overcome it. You've wrestled with doubt and come out with truth in your hand. You no longer whisper apologies for who you are. You speak life. You speak freedom. You speak healing. And people hear it because your voice is rooted in authenticity. And in a world full of noise, truth still cuts through. Now your voice builds bridges, not walls. It lifts others who are still where you used to be. And the beautiful part, you don't have to yell to be heard. You just have to be real. And real always resonates. Your scars are proof not shame. For so long you tried to hide them, thinking they made you look weak, damaged, less than. You wore long sleeves over the emotional wounds, plastered smiles over broken places, and convinced yourself that if no one saw the scars, maybe you wouldn't have to feel them anymore. But now you understand they don't represent your failure. They represent your fight. Those scars are not signs of defeat. They are signs that you survived, that you endured, that you walked through the darkest chapters and didn't let them be the final word. Every scar on your heart, on your soul, is a reminder that pain didn't win, that trauma didn't get the last say, that the storm came, but it passed, and you're still standing. Scars don't make you weak. They make you real. They carry stories, not of shame, but of healing, not of brokenness, but of restoration. Anyone can pretend they've never been hurt, but it takes courage to show your scars and say, yes, I've been through it, but I came out stronger. Your scars connect you to others who are still bleeding. They let people know they're not alone. They give hope. They shine a light. And what once embarrassed you, what once made you feel small, now becomes the very evidence that you are unbreakable. So don't cover them. Don't hide them. Don't apologize for them. Wear them like armor. Because you didn't just survive, you were transformed. And every mark left on you is proof that grace met grit and grace won. You walk with authority now, not fear. There was a time when fear controlled you, when it whispered lies and planted seeds of doubt in your heart. It made you second-guess yourself, made you shrink in the face of challenges, and kept you trapped in a cycle of hesitation. But not anymore. Something inside you shifted. You realized that fear no longer had the right to lead your life because you found something far greater than that. The unshakable truth that you were not alone and that the strength you need has always been within you. Now, when you face obstacles, you no longer cower or run. You stand tall. You move forward with purpose, not because the path is always clear, but because you know who is leading you. You've seen God move in ways that defy logic, and that knowledge gives you the courage to face what lies ahead. Fear doesn't control your choices anymore. It's faith, boldness, and clarity that direct your steps. And when fear tries to knock on your door, you can confidently answer. You have no authority here. You understand now that you have been given power, divine, lasting power, power to speak, power to act, power to influence. And you carry that authority with humility, knowing it's not about you, but about the one who has equipped you. The same God who gave you the strength to survive, to thrive, to rise, has also given you the authority to walk in victory. So when you speak, when you move, when you live, there's a weight to it now. It's not arrogance. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth. It's the knowing that you were made for more, that you've been called for such a time as this. And because of that, you refuse to live in the shadow of fear any longer. Fear has no place in your life. You walk with authority now, and nothing can take that from you. You're not alone. Not now, not ever. There was a time when loneliness felt like your constant companion, when the weight of your burdens seemed too heavy to carry by yourself. Maybe you've been abandoned. Maybe you've walked through seasons where you felt like no one saw you or understood you. But let me remind you of something powerful. Even in your darkest moments, you were never truly alone. There has always been a presence with you, a guiding hand, a whisper of comfort and strength that held you steady when everything else seemed to be falling apart. You see it more clearly. You realize that the one who has been walking with you wasn't just a shadow in the distance. He was there in the moments when you cried yourself to sleep, when you questioned everything, when you couldn't see a way out. He was there, and he is here now. Every step, every trial, every victory, he's been by your side, behind you, before you, and within you. And because you are not alone, you are never without hope. When life tries to isolate you, when circumstances want to convince you that you're all on your own, remember the truth that stands tall above the lies. You are surrounded by the presence of a faithful God who promises to never leave you or forsake you. You may have walked through seasons of feeling abandoned or overlooked, but you are not overlooked by the one who sees you fully, understands you completely, and loves you unconditionally. And that changes everything. You are never without strength because the strength of the Almighty is in you. You are never without comfort because the peace of God that surpasses all understanding surrounds you. You are never without purpose because you have been placed here for a reason, for a time, and for a mission greater than yourself. You're not alone. You have never been alone.